The service industry gives you just enough to keep a roof over your head, at times if you're lucky, but never enough to build up and never enough to move on.
To be able to make a decent income in that industry, you really need to work nights and doubles and long shifts. I have seen so many sad circumstances of drug and alcohol abuse and people living from those tips to tips, paycheck to paycheck, and just not going anywhere.
This industry is extremely demanding, both emotionally and physically and mentally. And I've seen it taken a very strong and unfortunate turn.
When I met you, I think I had probably 30 days clean and sober, had absolutely nowhere to live, the clothes on my back. I was desperately praying and asking for something to help change my life.
We met on the bus, and there was a very distraught lady who came on the bus, and you were really kind and generous and gave her a bill. And I later found out it was a 20. I was really touched by your generosity. That was very kind of you.
When I did that, Miss Cheryl came up from the back of the bus and sat next to me and handed me a folded piece of paper. On the piece of paper was Big Table.
Since I've known you, and this has been 5 years, you've only had a car once, and not very long. You've had a bike, though, as long as I've known you. You're like the mailman of biking. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You're going to keep getting on your bike, and you're going to go where you need to go.
Getting dirty and riding my bike out in the woods, that's what I'm all about.
Unfortunately, you had a pretty special bike that got stolen.
And to make it even worse, I mean, this is the bike that I had built up as as part of a project, and so I had had that thing for 2008 till last year.
So at that point, I contacted Big Table.
What I recall was I think you had made an appointment to have your teeth extracted.
One of my teeth broke while I was at work. A filling fell out, the molar broke underneath it. The pain I was experiencing was so bad that I couldn't even operate as a father to my fullest potential. I couldn't even spend more than an hour at the park with my daughter without having to go back to the house. Being a single father, trying to make it on my own, I don't have money to get a tooth pulled, I don't have money for school supplies, I'm barely paying the rent every month. I just didn't know what to do. So I was more or less forced to ask for help. But when I needed to, you were definitely there.
Barrio was my first job when I moved to Seattle.
You were very easy to get along with, and people really respected you and liked you, and you had a very good standard of service, and you led by example.
There's been a ton of life transitions for me. There was a lot of chaos and turmoil and divorce, and some of that coping led to issues with substance abuse. You guys intervened, and that's how I got in touch with Big Table. When I got in touch with Naya just that next day and started just being completely honest and opening up about everything that was going on with me, it was just such a relief. And we've formed a pretty strong bond and relationship, and that's been amazing. And I think that all of these things combined have been really what's helped me succeed so much over the last few months.
So you met with Kevin and Chris from Big Table.
We had a pretty detailed talk, and then they decided to surprise me. I mean,
what do you mean they surprised you?
I had no idea that they were planning on buying me a bike.
Hava offered me assistance without any strings attached. I still don't know if I've processed it fully. I think more than a service provider, Hala's become a mentor and a life coach for me, and I think that support and that year that he offers to me freely means more than the money ever could. And I think Big Table gives me some hope.
I scheduled a meeting to meet with Chris. We started discussing some of the things that were taking place in my life as far as where I was at. I had just come out of some real pain and some real suffering in my addiction, and he was just there to encourage me. When I was feeling low and when I was discouraged, he was there and he would meet with me and he would say, well, what's going on in your life? And he was, cheering me on, and he still does today.
It's all about transforming lives. It's not about just paying somebody's rent or getting them a new car. It's about transforming their lives so that they can, in turn, ultimately share what they've gained through Big Table experience and transform other lives.
It still blows my mind to this day to just like, I mean, you hear about, you say Big Table and they're like, oh yeah, like Big Table helped me out with, you know, bills, or like I had trouble with transportation and they helped me like get a new set of tires for my car.
We as managers and restaurant operators, we're not specialists in how to help people deal with their problems. Having Big Table now has given us an opportunity to call in for help and say, hey, we have this situation, we have this person. They're wonderful, but they're going through this. We need help. Without it, you know, I think it would just be status quo and people wouldn't get better. We would lose great people. Great people would lose their jobs.
I don't know how far this is going to go for you guys, but I see Big Table being such a huge thing. Even though you've just gone to Seattle, I see it really spreading farther.
It's never a good feeling to feel alone, and that's not the case with Big Table. You're now part of like one of the most caring families. It's just an unimaginably amazing feeling.
Big Table's, I think, saving a lot of folks and continuing to trickle down.
You know, it's totally changed my life. My life is totally different now. I mean, it is struggles and there is life issues and it's hard at times, but, you know, there's hope.